Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim and Chris. On today's official podcast of the UTS Grand Final.
Jack Draper takes home the Lightning Bolt trophy.
The UTS Grand Final wraps up in style.
And we speak to all of the players behind the scenes.
Kim, Chris, today is the 18th of December and we are here to catch up on the UTS Grand Final in London. Jack Draper, the wild card, the hometown hero, goes undefeated, and we have an exclusive sit-down interview with him to share with you later. We also have Andrey Rublev explaining his semi-final controversy in his own words, and most importantly, Benoit Paire gives me some facial hair advice. So we've got clips galore to come from all the players at UTS Grand Final in this episode. But guys, we're coming off the final yesterday. As I say, kind of Jack Draper won against Holger Rune. How are we all feeling today?
Well, I want to settle instead of the GOAT debate, the goatee debate, in terms of what Benoit Paire had to say, because we still haven't got clarity on that from yesterday's episode. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, maybe it'll be more illuminating today, because we will have a clip from Benoit Paire talking all things beard.
I just can't believe that, Joel, you got your Jack Draper prediction right that you made before the final yesterday. Well, before the semi-finals. That's very rare in Tennis Weekly lore.
He just played such good tennis throughout the week. He was the only one, I think, who consistently played well from start to finish.
Yeah, he played amazing tennis. And, Joel, this is the first time that you've kind of got a prediction this right, except Coco Gauff, obviously, we have to say. You did have that highlight at the US Open, but this is kind of against the form book, and some of the rankings. So would you like to dine out on it anymore? Do you think you'll be making much better predictions in 2024?
I think this is in a lovely way to end 2023, and I just hope 2024 brings more fruitful predictions from myself. But I know this is probably the peak, and it's going to go downhill from here, starting with Australian Open predictions, no doubt,
one and done,
at the start
Joel.
of next year. Yeah, exactly.
Well, impressive prediction from you, Joel, and impressive from Jack Draper to win UTS, because he did beat world number 8 Holger Rune in the final. This always sounds weird saying this scoreline because it's totally different to what we normally say, but it was a 12-14, 15-12, 13-10, 19-7 scoreline, 3/4 to 1, coming from a quarter down, and that last quarter just running away with it. Very, very dominant, very impressive after kind of two tight ones. Brilliant fashion there, especially at the end. And as you said, Joel, he had a great week throughout the semi-final as well with Casper. Very, very close quarters, coming down from quarter points, 2 quarters in a row to sneak those. He just, for me, was the well-deserved champion.
Yeah, he was. He played the best tennis, I thought, from start to finish, and even in those clutch moments in the semi-final and final against Ruud and then Rune, even though he was down, quarter points down, he was able to clinch through, and it's just generally impressive from him, particularly considering, because he spoke in an interview about the fact that he hadn't really heard of the event until very late on, and he's going to have a lot of money now in his bank account, so I'm sure he'll be pretty thankful that he has now heard of it.
A very early Christmas present. I think it's something to the sum of £550,000. So,
wow.
His name's the power. He certainly has some spending power now. And I just think it's so impressive in terms of, composure. Maybe he shouldn't be called the power. He should be called kind of nerves of steel, because as you've said, like, some of those matches were so tight and he just hit through the court on everything. He never really hesitated. And I think the nature of the format, I think, Kim, you mentioned this yesterday, you thought it would be a bit more relaxed for the players, but if anything, it's a bit more tense, especially when they put on that Beethoven you mentioned yesterday.
Yeah, it's so tense in those critical moments, quarter points down or just, when they've got they're playing their bonus card, they really want to get that point, because it's worth so much. And yeah, it was quite nail biting as a fan watching it when it got to those critical moments. And I guess you could say that's the same with traditional tennis. You get to a crucial set point or moment of, in a tie break. But yeah, it's very concentrated. It's like a microcosm of kind of regular tennis, I suppose.
it just feels like, regardless of all the rule changes, the innovations, if you put these guys on a tennis court, they're trained and they're born to win. They're going to be competitive. And finals day did have that feeling and that occasion about it that, yes, you might look at this on paper and think it's an exhibition, but actually you go there. These guys want to win. And I think would say with Jack Draper, I thought it was interesting that, yes, he is called the power, but I was actually arguably more impressed with his touch, because the number of drop shots that he was bringing out, the angles that he was playing with was, I would say, as equally impressive as the ground strokes he was showing from the baseline.
And his movement. I mean, I've never thought of him necessarily as kind of that all-round player in the same way. I've always thought maybe, initially it was the big serve and then the big ground strokes, but both wings, very dangerous. The touch was great, and I think someone asked him about his drop shots, and he said, if you watch me play, I do hit a lot of drop shots. I don't normally hit a lot that go over. So I think that was something that was quite nice, that maybe he just put it all together. But I would say maybe that laid-back attitude that he had kind of at the start of the tournament, when we sat down with him, kind of put him in good stead, not knowing too much about what was going on and just kind of enjoying the moment initially, then suddenly finding himself in this great situation. But we asked him about his name, we asked him about Andy Murray, and we sat down with him before the tournament. So this is what he had to say. So you got the call to play UTS. It's at home. What was your reaction when you got the call, and was it an immediate yes?
Yeah, obviously, very grateful to be able to give him the call, the wild card. Patrick and the team always do an amazing job with the UTS. And I think it was a great opportunity for me to come and play in London, considering I haven't really been able to play much on home soil this year. So I'm really happy to be here and excited for the competition.
We saw you play in Manchester, and that was obviously a fantastic result, a great event, and a fantastic kind of debut for GB. Was that one of also the factors that made you think this is going to be a great thing to be a part of, playing in front of, as you said, a British crowd again?
Yeah, 100%. I'm not too sure what the kind of ticket sales or anything's like, but I mean, I'm really excited whenever I play in the UK. I think it's a great opportunity to kind of show my tennis on home soil, like I said, and hopefully the crowd will be behind me.
And the nicknames, so that was one of the big questions. So we did see quite a lot on social media where people asked like what your nickname should be. Yeah. How did you go about that process, and did you see some of there were some quite funny responses. Did you see any of them? Yeah,
some really funny responses. Jack the Cripple was quite funny. I was injured quite a lot the last year or so.
Savage.
No, I found that really funny. I love all that banter. The other one, Jack the Ripper, I got that a lot, but I mean, kind of like a sinister context, so I'm not too sure if that one would go.
Jacket Potato,
Jack Hammer, the Jack Hammer.
Yeah.
Like Berrettini's got the hammer. There's a lot of people who've already got different nicknames, so I kind of felt like the power kind of links to my game. Quite a powerful player, and also Phil the Power Taylor. So he's obviously one of the best in history darts players, and I always love watching the darts. So it kind of came after that.
Going to get some darts inspiration. So does that mean you've got to hit the ball even harder if you are Jack the Power?
No, I try not to make myself injured by trying to hit the ball too much harder, but I think that's just the way I play, and hopefully you guys can see that.
Yeah, and we were going to ask you about your season. Obviously, you had a bit of a tough season at the start, and then it's really come together towards the end of the season. Was there kind of like a match that stood out for you as like one of the highlights of the year when things kind of changed around?
Yeah, I mean, I think it wasn't really a match. I think it was a period of time. I had a real tough period at the start of the year. I was injured a lot. I was not playing really pain-free, and I was just felt like I was always going uphill, and I wasn't really enjoying it and stuff. And then actually when I properly injured my shoulder in the French Open, I had 2 months out. I missed Wimbledon, I missed a lot of stuff, and I think that period there when I was at home, sort of in a bit of a ditch almost, I kind of came out of that. I kept on working hard, and then obviously finished the year really strong, and I'm obviously proud of my achievements. But I suppose it was just kind of that 2 months where kind of my perspective changed, and I think it made me really strong being out of those tournaments.
And do you think that kind of that coming back from injury meant that you could did you lower your expectations a little bit and play a bit more freely, like in terms of getting some of the great results, like fourth round at the US Open? I mean, there wasn't that many kind of expectations probably going into that. Obviously, your game and how you can play. Yeah. But do you think that you have bigger expectations maybe going into 2024?
Definitely in going into 2024, I'm not going to say I have big expectations, but all I know is that I've improved massively as a player. I felt like maybe last year I was in a great place, and then I didn't really improve too much because of the injuries and because of certain things. And then kind of when I had that period off and to the back end of this year, I've got really strong. I felt like mentally I'm in a great place. Physically I've kept on improving and being able to stay injury free, so that's allowed me to gain consistency. And I just feel like for 2024, if I keep on doing the right things and keep listening to the people around me and doing what I need to do, I don't see there's any reason why not, that I'm going to have a great season.
And then in terms of like kind of the nature of being here, we have to kind of ask, so obviously everyone knows that you and Andy Murray have a great relationship. If Andy Murray had a nickname, what do you think it would be? I mean, it's kind of tough to put it on the spot because, you know, there are so many things it could be. I was thinking maybe like the Iron Man.
The Iron Man, yeah, I think he's like the cat. He's got a few different lives, isn't he? He's got like 9 lives. Yeah. Seems like he obviously he's playing with the metal hip. Andy Murray, I don't know. Iron Man. Iron Man. Iron Man. I was a bit slow there. Yeah. Iron Man. I think we'll stick with that.
I'm not sure it is made out of iron though.
No, I know, but it's got like a silver thing to it.
Sounds like he'll be on court for a while. Right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. He's an amazing guy. Very, very fun to be around off the court. I have a good relationship with him, and what a champion as well.
Yeah, so. That was one of the suggestions I think I saw as well. 500 miles.
500 miles. For me?
Yeah, I think it was from when you were singing in the back of the cab. I think
it was 500 miles straight.
Yeah, but it's 40 minutes, so I'm not sure how many miles you can do.
I'm not sure if I'll be doing that many miles
in that time. And then final question. If you were to have kind of like a word, if you're manifesting for 2024, like a word that would kind of guide the energy that you're bringing to next season, what would it be?
I don't know, a word. I'd say power.
Power.
You know, like power of mind, power of body. Just keep on progressing. I like this idea that, you know, I definitely, as you say, manifesting. I definitely think we have the power to do whatever we want to achieve and whatever we want to do in life if we put our minds to it and we stay consistent and disciplined. So I think I'd go for power.
Well, we hope you power through UTS and we see you at the final.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you
Thanks
for having
so
me.
Much. I mean, we've got to talk about it. Andy Murray the cat. What do we think about that?
Not something I personally would have put as Andy Murray's name. I've never really thought of cats and Andy Murray
cat
together.
Of Scotland, could it be? Maybe that would make it a little bit. But he's not really a pussycat on the court. I think that kind of doesn't necessarily do him the justice. Sure, the 9 lives comment, but
that's true. I guess it stems from that. I think Iron Man makes more sense.
Thank you, Kim. I'll take that. Thank you.
That's much better. Yeah, I like that.
I think that Jack didn't necessarily understand what I meant when I said that. I think he thought I literally meant Iron Man as in the superhero.
You were referring to the metal hip.
But should Andy be defined by his metal hip? Who knows? But I mean, some of the suggestions for his names we asked him about Jack the Potato. I mean, he had Jack the Cripple because he'd been injured. So I think he really kind of took a bit of a Twitter bashing when it came to those suggestions. But I think I had one suggestion for Andy Murray we didn't mention. Instead of 500 miles for Jack, well, it could be 500 miles for Jack and 500 lives for Andy Murray. And maybe that would be a way of getting around that. But always great to talk to him. And he was so relaxed and such a nice guy and super generous with the time. So
he loves his darts as well, doesn't he? Because the Power nickname came from Phil the Power Taylor, who's a famous darts player. And I believe Phil the Power Taylor sent him a message in the build-up, heard that he was using his nickname and knew he was a massive darts fan. And I think he even said he wanted to get back into training, darts training afterwards, because he's such a fan of it. I thought maybe I might see him at Ali Pali for the World Darts Championships later, which I am attending, but he is full on in training block mode at the moment. So maybe I won't be able to get the chance to see him.
Well, maybe he might also be dressing up, Joel, and he might be going incognito there. That could be one way that he'd be able to do it.
Yeah, I would be curious to know what he would dress up as, or he would just go probably in hospitality. But yes, listeners, I'm dressed. I'm going to be dressed as a chicken. I don't know if it's going to make our socials. Probably not. Probably doesn't need to. But yes.
Jack is unlikely to be heading there dressed as a chicken with you for that, Joel. But Yeah, I mean, a big darts fan. I couldn't believe a darts correspondent actually turned up because of the fact his name was Phil the Power Taylor, basically. So he was getting interviewed by darts writers.
Well,
so
he said he wanted Phil the Power Taylor in his Wimbledon box next year.
I'm just glad that you don't have to dress up to go to UTS, because Joel, God knows what you would have turned up to cover the tennis in.
Well, I did
maybe
bring
a horse.
my Christmas jumper, but
a horse. That's a great suggestion.
Could have dressed up as a horse and maybe ended up in the horse show instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you did anyway. But anyway, we got to speak to Jack as well as the tournament went on. And here's what he had to say before his semi-final and also after his final win.
Jack, how good was that? Your UTS debut? Could it have gone any better? And maybe this is the perfect format for you?
If it was the perfect format for me, I don't think I'll have a career in tennis, because it's very very different to what tennis is. But I loved it. It's something very different for the players. I think if you lose, you absolutely hate it, and if you win, you love it. Luckily, I was on the winning side today, so I suppose I love it today.
And when we spoke the other day, I asked if you were going to hit the ball harder. Now your nickname is the Power. You said you weren't. It felt like maybe you did, based on some of the shots you hit today.
No. I think I'm just showing my tennis. That's I think not anything massively different for me. I'm just playing the way I play, and I guess my game's pretty powerful anyway. So there you go.
And final question: do you think that Phil the Power Taylor would be impressed by that performance?
I think he would. I think he'd be impressed with the accuracy that I showed today, because he's obviously an unbelievable darts player. But yeah, I don't think he knows anything about tennis. I'm sure maybe he doesn't, but if he does, then we'll have to get him to Wimbledon or one of the tournaments in the UK sometime.
Yeah, he's got to be in your box one day. Yeah.
Oh, he will be. Yeah. He will be. We'll get that sorted. If the nickname sticks after this week, we'll make it happen.
Jack, from not necessarily having the perfect season to coming here and having kind of an extraordinary 3 days, going from wildcard to the winner of the event, a few words on kind of this journey you've been on.
Yeah, amazing. I think my year has been was tough up until the summer, and then I put in a lot of really hard work, and I finished the year strong on the tour. Had a bit of a gutting one at Davis Cup. Serbia played amazing against us, and then I've been putting in a good solid training block, and obviously to come here and put that into action has been great. I felt physically good and mentally really strong. And then I'll have a day off tomorrow and get back to the drawing board ready for 2024.
Do you think you're playing some of the best tennis that you've played?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I'm improving all the time, learning about my game. I think physically I'm really trying to put in the work, and my mentality has really shifted in terms of, I want to generally be one of the best players in the world, and I believe I can. I just got to stay injury free and keep my head down, keep working and doing all the right things. So I've got a great team behind me and a lot of people who support me and want me to do well, so I'll just try and stay consistent.
Jack, how are you going to celebrate?
I think I'm going to have a day off tomorrow. I mean, we're in the middle of our pre-season. We're working really hard for next week, so for next year, sorry. So I'll have a day off, try and chill out a bit. This format takes it out of you, and then I'll be back to work on, I don't even know what day it is today. So I'll be back to work on Tuesday to keep on going for next year. Small break for Christmas, and then I'm flying to Oz, so just keeping up the work from here.
No time to go to Ali Pali for the World Championship?
No, that would get messy if I did that. Cheers.
Wow. No rest for Jack, it feels like. I mean, Kim, we saw him in Malaga at the Davis Cup finals, took a wild card into this event. He's playing this event whilst being in training for next season, almost using it as a bit of practice against high quality opposition. I mean, just looking forward, to next season for Jack Draper, what do you think his ambitions are? Because he feels very confident. He feels like he's playing some of the best tennis of his career at the moment. Where do you think he's heading? Where do you think his trajectory is going?
Up, I hope. As long as he can stay injury free, I think this has been such a big boost for him. And I think, he came close, didn't he, in that match against Kekmanovic at the Davis Cup. It was quite frustrating, but I think, he was quite disappointed by that. And I think he's really channeled that into, a good training block prior to UTS, and then obviously taking that onto the court here. So I have high hopes. I just think, like with anything, it's injury and health dependent. And I really hope that luck is on his side in that respect, because he's obviously had quite a difficult year earlier on.
How much do we feel that genuinely, defeating these top 10 players like, Ruud and Rune, for example, in this format that is so alien, let's say, to the ATP Tour, how much do we feel like this will genuinely can mean something on the ATP Tour proper? Or do we have to sort of treat it more isolated?
I honestly think it's the perfect preparation when it comes to those pressure points, because I think that's where so many of the players who kind of are in that mid-range from, 20 to 50. I mean, Jack's just around 60 of the world at the moment, but he didn't get to play a full season. I think so many of those players, the reason why they aren't top 20, top 10 is because they don't play the big points well. And I think this is something where Jack was really going for it. Obviously, it's a different situation. But, I mean, if you look at how Djokovic plays, a break point, he almost goes for more on those shots. So I think the mentality is something he can take forward. I think maybe not too much when it comes to playing those 3 points bonus cards. I'm not sure that will help if you're holding up 3 at the Australian Open for the umpire to try and give you, 15 love up and then it's game. I think there's lessons that can be taken from it. But going to ask you one thing. So you did get the prediction right. You did also suggest he took some time off before the US Open, and then, things have turned around for him. But we had this debate about Arthur Fils in terms of who had the higher ceiling. And I think I'm going to have to change my opinion based on his performance.
Oh, okay.
I really think that Jack, he's got the full game. He's got it all. And if he can handle the mentality as well. He said he's aiming for top 20, but this was a top 10 performance, I would say.
I think certainly top 20 for sure. And
he beat top 10 players.
Potentially higher. Well, yeah, I know, but I think in terms of what's realistic this coming season, 2024, I think top 10 might be a bit of a stretch, but top 20.
Well, Raducanu's winning the Australian Open, so, getting top 10 for Jack Draper is not too much of a stretch.
Are we going to hold you to that, Chris? That wild prediction?
No, maybe I'll see what the draw looks like.
I almost feel like if he can just take care of his body and make sure it's up to the rigors of a full season on the ATP Tour, I think the results and the ranking, I think they should kind of take care of themselves. And I think it's a really exciting time for him. I think there's lots of things he can look forward to next season. I know he's won this trophy. He hasn't won a trophy on the ATP Tour proper yet. And I certainly think that is one of the things he should be looking to achieve next season, because the tennis he is playing at the moment, the confidence that he is playing with, he is going to be a threat, and he's going to be a player that, players around him in the rankings higher up, they are not going to want to face him early on in the season.
Well, Holger Rune won't want to face him again because Jack has beaten him twice this week. And Holger had a bit of an up and down week, still got to the final. I was predicting him to lose in the semis to Rublev, but we did speak to Holger before the final, actually, about some non-tennis related things. So let's have a little listen to that now.
Congrats on the win today. What made the difference? Did you get a text from Boris overnight? Any advice from him, or?
Yeah, of course I got a text, but no, I just told myself not to give too much importance to the format and try to fit in, because as more as you start thinking about it, as more stressful it is. So I just told myself to enjoy and see how it goes, really.
You were the most searched person in Denmark ahead of Taylor Swift and the Prime Minister. We saw that on your stories. That's got to feel pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's a great thing. I'm happy that so many Danish people they want to know more about me. That's great. It shows that I'm giving a good effort on the court, showing my tennis, and that's what it's all about. Yeah.
We asked our listeners if they had any questions for you, and the subject of your shorts came up a lot. And if you were going to release a line with Nike of Holger short shorts, is that something that's in the works?
Of course, it's in the work, and I can't say much now because it's confidential. But for sure, there's gonna happen something. Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. I just thought I've got to ask about some of the things that he shares on social media. Being the most searched person in Denmark, I just thought that was wonderful to get his take on it. And he was sharing it. He's very pleased with it, and I think he sees it as a testament to what he's doing on the tennis court. But it could also be a testament to some of the things that some of the behaviour he has on the tennis court as well might make him just so searchable. But the big news, Joel, if you want to get yourself some Holger short shorts, it sounds like maybe a collaboration with Nike is coming.
They feel like the shortest shorts on the men's tour at the moment. He does have...
Maybe across all tours.
He has incredible legs. When you see him up close in person, in the player interviews. The conditioning on his legs are unbelievable. But yeah, I do feel like sometimes he milks it with how short his shorts are.
He's like rolling them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what school kids used to do. Used to roll my skirt up at high school.
He does not skip leg day, does he? And he wants to make you well aware of it.
When you were rolling your skirt up, Kim, did you skip leg day?
I don't think their leg day existed when I was at high school. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's comfortable for him, in terms of short shorts, slightly longer shorts, but we'll see. We'll see what is brought out onto the market, perhaps. One thing I have to say, though, on Holger, going back to kind of his tennis on the court, he did play some great tennis in that semi-final with Rublev, but when it got to the final, I was not best pleased with him because he was getting a bit frustrated, I think, by how well Draper was playing, but there was a particular patch where he just whacked several balls out of the stand, one at really high velocity,
home runs,
and then about 2 or 3 within the space of a few minutes. And I just thought, you wouldn't do that on the regular tour. I mean, some players do, but they get, punished, and there's definitely repercussions when, perhaps the balls hit someone in the audience. But yeah, I thought that was just not on. Like, you cannot just do that because it's UTS. Like, it doesn't mean that you have a license to misbehave. But he was asked about that in press, and he said, well, yeah, I'm not going to get fined for it here. It's allowed. So yeah, I'll do it here, but I, wouldn't do it on the main tour. But like, I feel like UTS.
It's not mandatory to misbehave.
Exactly.
Is it? I think some players pushed it, but I think hitting one ball out in frustration is fine. I think probably it was about 6 or 7 in different areas. And I mean, at one point it was towards the Mouratoglou sort of the lot, and they looked a little bit shocked. I think that they don't expect that they'll be attacked by almost one of their own with a ball. But I mean, he was trying to aim away from players, but I do just think you don't know who's standing behind a stand. You don't know what's going on. So I'd agree with you that it wasn't the best scenes, and it's lucky that it didn't end up with someone getting hurt.
Well, yeah, exactly, because there's staff, there's fans walking around. Like,
we could have been walking behind. I mean, I would quite like that for the story for the podcast, but
well, you might have ended up back in hospital, Chris, though, if you've been whacked with a massive tennis ball. I don't want anyone's Christmas to be ruined because of Holger Rune whacking a tennis ball out the stand. But that was just sort of one thing that I've picked up on with UTS, is that I think, it doesn't just mean you can like have bad behaviour and kind of misbehave in that way just because kind of it's an anything goes kind of vibe. But anyway, on that note, we're going to take a quick break now. We'll be back in the second half to cover some more controversial behaviour, but this time from Andrey Rublev. We'll be putting to rest the Benoit facial hair debate for once and for all. And we'll also be asking Casper if he has the best dance moves on the ATP tour. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the official podcast of the UTS Grand Final. Now we're going to move on to the great beard debate. We alluded to this earlier. Did Benoit Paire say that he liked Joel's beard? I'm curious to know. I wasn't there for Benoit's answer, so I genuinely don't know.
Big questions being asked here. Well, let's put this to rest and hear from the great man Benoit Paire and the exchange now.
Final question. I'm deeply enamoured by your beard. It's an incredible beard.
Thank you.
I'm trying to grow a beard myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. What advice would you give someone like myself who wants to grow a beard as good as yours?
Everybody asks me for an advice, but I don't put any product. I don't do anything. I'm just lucky. Okay. So let's see if you're lucky. You just keep the moustache for the moment. So let's try everything.
Okay, no product. I'll keep those words in time.
Keep like this and don't go to the barber.
Look, guys, I just want to say, I told you. He loved it. He loved the mustache. He loved everything.
You won him over, Joel, I'd say. Your sparkling personality charmed him in the media room. But, I mean, what a question. I mean, if you want a beard, go to the man with the beard himself.
Or his coach, who has an identical beard.
His coach had an identical beard, I know. It's like a prerequisite, isn't it, to be part of the Benoit Paire team. But he did say, as you probably heard, he did say, just don't use any product. Just keep it natural. Just keep it
Are you using any product now? I can't imagine you are, Joel.
No, yeah. No, yeah. So I am
keep
actually
doing what you're doing.
I'm following his advice here.
His no step routine.
His no-step routine.
So, Joel, are you in the off-season going to grow a beard a la Benoit? Are we going to maybe... Is it going to be like you only shave it when our crowdfunder reaches its target, or when we get
the next time you see Benoit?
Next time you see Benoit in the flesh.
This time next year, maybe at the Grand Final?
It's just going to be like Beardanuary, like in January, and we're just gonna go with it. We're gonna go with it, and we're gonna take it from there. But I think it's gonna take a lot longer, I think, than it takes Benoit Paire. I feel like it might not necessarily be ready for the 2024 season, maybe even the 2025 season at the rate I feel. My facial hair grows.
It's a long-term
look forward
plan.
to seeing it.
Yeah. Well, Benoit.
It's a long-term plan.
Benoit, aside from giving, facial hair advice, was, actually on his best behaviour all week. But his UTS nickname was the Rebel. We're not quite sure he lived up to it. But Joel, you asked him what the most rebellious thing he had done recently was. So let's have a little listen now.
And your nickname is the Rebel. I'd like to ask you, what's the most rebellious thing you've done recently?
Honestly, since 1 year, I'm feeling like an angel. So to be honest, I didn't act like a rebel recently. I feel like I'm so good guy. That's why I said with Andrey Rublev, he asked me, "You gonna destroy a racket?" I said, "No, I don't want to destroy a racket. I feel good now."
I was actually really nervous when I asked this question, because there was this sort of pause in the room of like, oh God, where's this gonna go? What's he gonna say? And then all of a sudden, he was just like, "Oh, actually, I've not really done anything rebellious in the last, in the season." It was just like, I've been pretty chilled. I've been pretty zen. I think he's brought someone into his team to help him with his mental game, and who knows, maybe it's helping him, because although his nickname was the Rebel, we didn't really see it that much, I think, at the UTS event. And let's say in interview, he was really kind of lost for words about what he has actually done, or maybe he just couldn't say it on camera.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking maybe he knew he was being filmed and he couldn't say what the most rebellious thing he had done. So we did follow up to find out that maybe he needs to bring out that rebellious side once again in order to kind of get ahead at UTS at the next event he plays. So we can hear about whether he wants to be more rebellious in the future. Yesterday you told us that you were no longer the Rebel, you were the Angel. But you kept your cool on court.
Look, I didn't break any racket.
You didn't break a racket, exactly. But do you think that for the next UTS you need to bring out that rebellious side again?
Let's see. Depends of my mood. No, this week I talked to Rublo a little bit before the UTS. He told me, please, Benoit, don't break any racket, and for sure it will be good for kids and everything. I said, okay, I don't break any racket, and when I was ready to break it, I said, okay, I give to the people.
So he is an angel on the court, but a rebel off the court. Is that what we're landing with?
Are we like that on the podcast? We're angels on the podcast, we're rebels off the podcast? Probably not.
I'm not sure. Get Joel in a Weatherspoons having some woo-woos. Maybe he's quite rebellious.
He's a rebel
there.
off the court, the Weatherspoon rebel. Yeah.
I mean, we also put the question to Andrey Rublev to see if he was happy with Benoit's progress on his path to sainthood. So let's hear what he had to say.
Benoit told us that you said to him not to break any rackets this week, and he's kept that promise. He's even called himself the Angel, not the Rebel. What do you make of his progress?
I don't know. I think he was doing this more sometimes for the show, because that's sometimes people wanted to see, and he was doing this. I think sometimes was not because he was angry. Of course, there was a lot of moments when he was breaking the rackets because he was angry, but for sure at the UTS sometimes he was breaking the racket because also to make a beat for the spectators.
Well, Andrey Rublev might have been happy with Benoit Paire's progress, but Rublev arguably could have been given the title the Rebel, because there was a dramatic scene, wasn't there, guys, in the semi-final around the use of a points card, which blew up entirely. I at one point thought Andrey Rublev just wasn't going to play any more tennis.
Yeah, it was really shocking, and a lot of confusion as to what was going on, what was being said, and I think Joel, you gave him the opportunity to clarify, because I think there was an awful lot that was happening and music happening. It was very hard to know. So this is what Rublev said when you asked him.
Andre, I saw you walk over to Patrick during that incident. What were the words you were exchanging with him?
No, just to check replay. Just nothing else. Can you check replay? If I was the second, okay. If I was first one, just to accept and give me 3 points, and that's it.
Do you want to see video replay brought into?
I don't need to see, just for them to check, to see who was first one, and that's it. Because then it's exhibition, so there is nothing. It's not like ATP. Okay, if the referee make decision, we cannot check who was the first one, and it's not ATP where if they make decision, even if they mistake, it's like this. Here it's exhibition, so we can play more fair game here, no? So and then that's what I was asking, just to check replay who was the first one, and that's it.
Well, what do we make of that, Joel? I mean, you asked him the question. It didn't look like he was just necessarily saying you wanted a replay. It looked like it was slightly more strongly worded than that. But yeah, what do you both think?
It was just such a long interlude. Holger was just sort of walking around the other end of the court. The DJ was playing all these kind of apt songs, which I did think was quite
the DJ
amusing.
was egging him on.
I predict a riot. You had a bad day. The best thing was when they came out with "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life."
He was exhausting the list of tunes, wasn't he? Because it was going on for so long.
I mean, it was quite an unfortunate scene, because I think the crowd might not know how much money's on the line or how important these matches are. But maybe Rublev really did. But I was just impressed it wasn't Holger. And Alina from the podcast was sitting very close to Holger's mum at the time, and she was saying, don't engage, because Holger was going to go and talk to Patrick, but he kept his cool. So maybe Benoit and Holger can join kind of being on a positive path, minus all the balls he hit off the court after that. But yeah, I mean, should he have got the 3 points, Joel?
I don't know. I think it was a tricky situation, because I think Rune had also said he wanted the 3-point card as well. And I think Rublev was saying that the umpire didn't see him and he went to Rune. But I think on replay, from what I've seen on social media, the umpire was in the right. And it was just one of these moments where Rublev just combusted on the court. I did enjoy the fact that rather than go to the umpire or like the tournament director, I think it's like Jeremy Chardy, he just walked over to Patrick Muratoglu, who was courtside, who's like the inventor of the concept of UTS, and he went straight to the top.
Straight to source, didn't he? And then Patrick, I saw him make a quick dart out during that. He
was like, this wasn't
took a
in the
phone
script.
call and got out. I think he didn't necessarily want that interaction. Yeah. I was like, who's he calling? Like, who could he be calling to change this view?
I don't know.
I saw a fan try to get a photo with him as well, and it was a little bit like, not now. This is serious stuff.
Yeah, I thought. I think after a while, I was just kind of like, Rublev, you're not doing yourself any favors, and he did say that it was bad behavior on his part in the press after, but I just think and then when they finally were ready to play, he wasn't really ready, and then I wasn't impressed with how he handled.
And then
he hit a serve, but he should have immediately lost the point, but then he played it again, which I think Holger wasn't impressed with. So
it was all a bit messy at that one. I think maybe that's one thing about the format, is that it can descend without kind of the rules around code of conduct. It can descend into a little bit of chaos, which might make for a great sort of social media clip. But at the same time, I think that it was a little bit awkward for people who are watching, especially because such a young audience is there. So I personally would like to have seen that toned down a little.
I mean, just on that, I mean, this is the thing I'm like a little bit, because he's just released his new clothing line, Rublo, and on his T-shirt it says "Play for the kids."
Are you saying this is a PR disaster?
And
basically,
when you're getting angry and frustrated on the court and doing all these things, is that the right message to have on a T-shirt? I'm not so sure.
I think it's a super nice idea and a super nice aspiration, but then, as you say, you do have to live by those values everywhere. And I think being very angry or down on yourself, obviously, as a role model, is something that doesn't necessarily paint the best picture. But he is so often an absolute breath of fresh air and a force of positivity on the tour. So hopefully these blips will become few and far between, on his path to, kind of going up the rankings and achieving his goals.
And to his credit, he did compose himself for press afterwards. We
got some smiles.
We were kind of talking between us of like, who's going to ask the question?
Joel, we made you do it.
And I got the short straw.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did compose himself, and he was very well. He was very respectful in interview afterwards. So it felt like it was just like a moment of hot-headedness on the court, but he was able to kind of put it in the back of his head and compose himself once the match was over. But yeah, it was a bit of a bit of a farce at times.
I think as a fan in the crowd, what would be good is if they mic'd the players up when they speak to the umpire, because they have these interviews at the change between quarters. But I think something like this would have really helped, because a lot of the crowd would probably be lost for a good 5 minutes. What's going on. So I don't know, maybe there could be an innovation where they mic the players up.
Or play the replay.
Oh, I mean, one thing Andrey wasn't sure he wanted a replay of was his clashes with Nadal when we asked him how he felt about Rafa's return to the tour.
And just a word on Rafa. Rafa's back on the tour next season. What do you make of that? What are your thoughts when you heard Rafa's back on, you might see him in Australia?
Of course, that you don't want to face him. And that's the first thoughts. I mean, I'm happy for him that finally he's back. But obviously, as a competitor, I feel more freedom when he was not there. So
is that the general vibe in the locker room? Do you think, or is that your?
I don't know, because we don't talk about those things in the locker. But obviously, for tennis is if we talk serious, I think for tennis is great that he's back. He will bring back a lot of spectators, a lot of followers. Especially again back for the tie between him and Novak will bring a lot of attention again to tennis. So it's amazing that he's back.
It was fascinating to hear that Rublev said, they don't really talk about that in the locker room, because I would have thought that would be the talk of the town in the locker room at the moment.
It was the talk of the podcast, that's for sure.
It's the talk of Kim.
Yes,
well,
Kim.
It's getting me very excited. Yeah, we've got Rafa back in Brisbane very soon. Literally probably in a week and a bit. But yeah, it's interesting. I'd asked Diego Schwartzman about it as well. And I think he was quite, pleased that Rafa's coming back. But I think he alluded to the fact that, yeah, maybe early on it might be a time to try and get a win, because, Rafa's going to be a bit rusty when he comes back. So you want to probably play him earlier on in his comeback, perhaps. But one other player we had the pleasure of speaking to in the last few days was Casper Ruud. And for a lighter end to the podcast, let's listen to what Casper had to say about the new family business, how good his dance moves are, and how excited he is for UTS, which is coming to Oslo early next year.
Casper, you clearly enjoy UTS. The Grand Final isn't over yet, but the next stop is Oslo. How excited are you for that? And did you have a say in that?
I don't know. They asked me if it could be an option, and I said, yeah, why not? Let's try. It's gutsy from them to go for it, because Oslo is not a typical, tennis city at all. You have Paris or London or these cities that have big tournaments, but Oslo, we didn't have a big tournament in many years, so it's going to be cool. It's going to be worth a try, and I hope people will come and cheer, not just when I play, but when other players play as well. So you have other big names coming, TM, Rublo, Rune, and Monfils, of course. There's a lot of great players and a lot of great tennis you'll be able to watch if you want to come. So if I was a tennis fan, I would go, and I hope many in Norway will.
Your sister Charlotte's playing college tennis now. It's becoming a bit of a family affair, because obviously your father played, you play, your sister's playing. Would you call it the family business of the Ruuds?
It is kind of, yeah, because obviously my father is my coach, my sister plays, my mother she's in charge of plane tickets, so she has a role in this, she's helping her out, and yeah, we're kind of like a family business, and we all play our part, so yeah, in a way, yes. It's going to be interesting to see how Charlotte can do in college. It's going to start next fall, so I'm very happy for her, and I think it's going to be a great 4 years for her. She improved a lot when she moved to Mallorca a couple of years ago to go to the academy, and she improved so much by being there. So it seems like good structure. It's going to be it's good for her, and I think college is a really cool experience for her.
And then the final question I was going to ask, so we've seen the Mehdi dance, the Tsitsipas shuffle, we've now seen the Casper wiggle. How do you think that ranks out of the ATP dance moves?
Oh, I don't know. It was, Mariah Carey was, needed for me to get going. So it's a, nice Christmas sound, and just enjoyed myself a little bit out there. And it was that song will get you on your feet for sure, no matter where you are. That's kind of impossible not to wiggle a little when you hear that song. So it's Christmas time, and but I think it's I think that's the only song that will get me to wiggle. So the DJ was smart today.
Yeah. We'll have to ask the DJ to play it again.
I hope not.
Well, I mean, you can't blame Casper for giving it a wiggle to Mariah Carey. I'm sure Joel and Kim, we've all done that many times. And
He loved your questions, I thought.
I think I got to ask him about some things that he likes talking about, and
I think he was surprised with the quality of the questions you gave him at like an exhibition event.
we had quite a nice build, didn't we? I took him on a journey to build up to the wiggle, and he really did embrace it. But I mean, maybe I'll travel to Oslo for the next UTS event to see the wiggle again. But I mean, he said Mariah's the only song, so unless they put that on, which is unlikely in February, I'm not sure we'll see it. But Joel, you have talked about you want to get inspired by Monfils' dancing.
I'm not going to be taking inspiration, I think, from the Casper Ruud wiggle, and I don't think Scandinavian Strictly Come Dancing will be sending him an invite anytime soon.
Ooh.
I don't think.
I think
Oh,
once he's
well.
retired,
Maybe that
though,
was a
he'd
bit
be an
cutting. Maybe that was
ideal
a bit harsh.
candidate. I can totally see him doing Strictly, but
Gael Monfils, on the other hand, French Strictly Come Dancing, assuming it exists,
Dancing with the Stars,
that
I
needs
think,
to
yeah.
happen. I think
Dancing with Les Stars? Is that
Yeah,
what we're
Les
gonna
Stars.
say?
dancing
I don't
avec stars.
Avec Les Stars? Yeah. Sorry to our French listeners if we have any. We probably don't after how we've talked about the French number one this year, but if any have stuck with us, we're very sorry.
well, I mean, you could play UTS just with French players, couldn't you? And it could be like
There's so
battle
many
of
of
the
them.
French number ones. But before we round off for today, let's talk about our final reflections on the UTS. First time that we've seen it live, first time it's been in London. We hope it will come back to London. I think it's overall been a really successful event here. Crowds are, very full. It seemed to enjoy it. Great atmosphere. So I personally would love to see it back again. But yeah, what's been your kind of highlights of almost the past week, Joel?
Well, my peak moment has been generally the player commentaries at the end of each quarter, and no more so than Andrey Rublev, who he can give kind of 3-word answers and the crowd just love it. I just love, there's just laughter, and I do love the interaction between fans and the players during these moments. I think the questions are pitched right. I think they're done well. They're very simple. They're very easy to understand. And I find that a really fascinating element of UTS, and probably my favourite kind of innovation from the event is these player conversations, because we just don't really hear them enough, I think, on the ATP tour.
Yeah, and Chris, what about you?
That's
yeah,
a good
I would
one.
agree. Yeah.
You know what? Mine's going to be Jack Draper. Generally, I just think that I had some less vibey interviews during the UTS experience, and Jack was just a breath of fresh air throughout it. I think no matter what was happening or what the media commitment was or what the ask was, he did go kind of above and beyond. And even on the final, they said last question, I didn't quite get it. He said, I think we had another one here. So I got to ask my question. I was like, well, it's not the best questions, but still, it was very nice that like he wasn't in a rush. He wanted to make sure that everybody got what they wanted. And I think with that sort of attitude, I think he's going to be, everyone's favourite. And I really think it's so refreshing when it comes to kind of being on the tour and interviewing these players. I think he really was almost like an open book. And I even got a wink at one point. So, Jack's the highlight. As his character, I think, would be mine.
Yeah, he's very considerate. And what my highlight was having our prize winner, Alexandra, and her son Hugh join us for the Friday evening session. And they got to meet Jack, and Jack, gave Hugh a little gift. So
The eventual
I thought
winner.
that was lovely. Yeah, and obviously, that's who else would you want to meet but the eventual winner? So it was lovely to meet them both. Thanks for coming and supporting the pod. And yeah, we hope you enjoyed your experience as well on Friday. And then I guess on the other flip side, moments that you weren't such a fan of, for me, it would be, I guess, like we've discussed, the fact that maybe there needs to be some more rules around conduct, because I don't think the UTS should be a license to misbehave by hitting balls out the arena just because you can.
I like that. It's like license to kill, James Bond. License to misbehave.
License to misbehave.
What about you, Chris, though? What were you not so keen on?
Well, it was pretty late finishes. I think it does have to be an evening event. I think we're all agreed for the vibes that you need with the music. If that was starting at 10 a.m, I think everyone would be struggling to find the enthusiasm. So I do understand that, but I think maybe finishing kind of past 11 for an event where you have timed matches might be a little bit too late. And especially like from a media perspective, you know, we love the French characters, but they're definitely not in a rush to come and find us in the media room. So maybe that would be mine, that it can get a little bit late, especially when you can control the end time. I think I would probably push it a little bit earlier.
I agree. Joel?
Come on, Joel.
I'm going to say mine was just the press room was moved from this really nice room that was perfect for podcasters and interviewers, away from the sound and all of the stuff on the tennis court. And then on the final day, it got moved to like right next to the tennis court in the corner. And I was only say it was annoying because we had the interview with Holger Rune, the runner-up, and the music was just too loud, and I just couldn't really hear what Rune was saying.
All I could hear was ABBA, "Thank You for the Music," which was, and Backstreet Boys, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was actually the perk of when you wait for media, the music stops and they've packed up the court, they've gone. Yeah. So, yeah, I do think the Holger one was a bit of an unusual situation, right?
Yeah. What about pleasant surprises? Joel, I feel like you're going to say something to do with your new equine friends, perhaps?
Yes. My pleasant surprise was I got it felt like a free ticket into the
You love a freebie,
into
Joel.
the International Horse Show en route from the tube stop. That was my pleasant surprise. Got to have a look at some horses trotting around.
Pick a winner for Ascot next year, maybe.
Exactly.
I mean, quite naive.
That was my pleasant surprise. Chris, what was yours?
Well, I think I did some reflection on yesterday's conversation that we had about the fact that my innovation was actually to bring it back to the normal tennis format. And I would say that I'm clearly more of a traditionalist than I thought I was, but I love it. I really honestly enjoyed it. And I think, mixing it up in a tennis season, I think it is such a nice event to attend. It's a different audience. And I started a skeptic and I ended genuinely quite enjoying it.
Yeah, I think it exceeded my expectations as well. And I love the choice of music. I think playing like Beethoven during the sudden death bit is genius.
They should do that at actual tournaments, right?
Yeah.
On like match point.
Yeah,
you
I
might
love
play
it
a lot though.
I feel like that was really great. Kudos to the DJ, and it was a lot of fun. I would recommend anyone to sort of go and have a look if it's in London again, or if you're in Oslo or anywhere else.
If you're in Oslo, if you happen to be in Oslo in February. If you happen to be in
Oslo on holiday in February in the cold. But yeah, Chris, hopefully you'll be there. And we do want to say a massive thank you to Faye and Eleanor from the Amelia Group, Patrick for having us there, and also the biggest thank you to our superstar producer and camera woman, Alina, who without her we would not have been able to capture all the best moments from the UTS, securing the sound and capturing content from around the courts. That just would not have been possible. So massive thank you for all your time and effort and commitment. We really do appreciate it. And to everyone involved, in having us there, big thank you.
Absolutely. And our annual crowd fund is also still live. The link is in the description. And we just want to make sure that we clarify something, that we're so grateful for everyone who's donated. And we do have paid partnership tags on social media right now. And we just want to clarify that this was very much a case that this was a media partnership and a media collaboration, which don't get paid to be there as media. So we had to, because of the collaboration, put that as the tag, but we very much are still a team that are looking for some support when it comes to being able to attend these events and make these things possible.
But for now, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed our coverage from the UTS Grand Final this week. Remember to subscribe to us to stay up to date on all the upcoming tennis, including the 2024 season.
We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcasting platforms out there. And if you like what you're hearing, then do make sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And you can follow us on social media, and you'll be able to see all of those interviews and even some new Tennis Weekly graphics. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and X. And the handle for that is Tennis Weekly Pod. You can also purchase Tennis Weekly merch at 20% off in the run up to Christmas. And that is etsy.com/shop/tennisweeklypodcast. You can also email the show, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com, or check out our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
And this really is goodbye from the Tennis Weekly Trio for 2023. It's been a fantastic season, and what a way to finish. We can't wait to cover 2024 for you. But as always, in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.